Are you listening?
And next up, we have a very special treat. We are joined by two of, I think I can say this, the cloud gaming OGs, Bill and Lloyd from Nerd Nest. Bill, Lloyd, thank you guys so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm sorry it took so long for you guys to come on. I've always been a fan of what you guys have been doing. I was first introduced to you right after GDC, Stadia Cast. So I guess the first question, jump there. Is that where you guys started creating content, or what's your origin story for a superhero context?
Sure, yeah. I've been creating video game content since 2005 or something ridiculous. I started out doing right when the PSP came out, the PlayStation Portable. I loved that device, and if you can notice a theme here, I really love a device, I start doing a podcast about it. And that's kind of what happened with the PSP, and then moved quickly into Nintendo for Nintendo Pulse and Wii Spot, which was we started with DS Life, which was the 3DS, or just the DS actually. The DS Lite had just come out, and then we started up. I registered a domain called Wii Spot just because when the Wii was made, or the announcement was made for the name, I had to come up with comedy domains, so I came up with a bunch of them, and that kind of turned into another podcast, and then they were mushed together into Nintendo Pulse, and that's where I met Bill, and then we followed each other's content, did some stuff for a short period of time, and then Nerd Nest became a thing. So I don't know, what about your journey there, Bill?
I started out with, there was a podcast that I did. There was one episode. It was called, well, actually, you go back a really, really long way. This is back before podcasting was really a thing. There was this, I worked at an ISP, and that ISP, we had really good internet. This is back in the days of dial-up, and there was the show that I used to watch, and I'm not even joking. This was video content back in the days of dial-up. It was on this network in New York called the Pseudo Network, and they had a video podcast about video games. I can't even remember what it was called, but then that company shut down, and then the owners, Scott Rubin, started a new show called the All Games Cast, and I used to send in RPG news to that podcast, and it was recorded on this terrible Packard Bell microphone. I can't believe they ever played any of my stuff. And then fast forward to, I decided I wanted to start a podcast of my own. This was many, many years later, and I did one episode of Arcatan's Arcade, which I liked the alliteration, but I quickly realized nobody was going to be able to spell Arcatan, because people in my WoW guild couldn't spell they always called me Artican. And so I was like, I need a better name. And so then I made a show called Run Jump Stomp, which I did for a long time. And then I did Nintendo Switchcraft when the Nintendo came out, and that's how I ended up meeting Lloyd. And then when Stadia got announced, I was basically live on my Twitch channel at the time, and I said, I'm going to do a podcast called Stadia Cast, and Lloyd happened to be watching at the time, and he says, oh, Bill, you beat me to it. And I said, no, I didn't, because you're going to be my co-host. I didn't even ask him. I just yeah, I need a co-host. That's you, buddy. And so we ended up starting Stadia Cast, and then that ended up turning into Nerd Nest, and Nintendo Switchcraft ended up switching over to Games with Bill, because I just didn't have enough Nintendo news that I wanted to talk about, and that's where we are today.
I'm curious for each of you. Bill, you can take this one first. What drew you to Google Stadia to begin with?
Convenience, absolutely convenience. The idea that you could play these brand new games and not have to have a box under your TV was really, really cool to me. And I kept talking about it as the democratization of video games, because anybody with an internet connection could play these games, and you didn't have to spend X dollars or whatever in order to get the next box to put under your TV. And, fast forward, you would probably, they'll eventually upgrade the stuff, and that upgraded stuff you would then not have to pay for. So I thought that was a really compelling argument. And I'm still waiting for that compelling argument to continue. Stadia is super convenient, and it's really awesome how well it works. It's amazing how well it works. But I'm still waiting for those upgrades.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you in that same boat where it's like I'm so frustrated because you see the potential and then you're just like, come on, you just want to push them like a toddler on a bike. You're like, you got this, take the training wheels off. But Lloyd, how about you?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of podcasts, or I used to listen to an obscene number of podcasts. My commute has changed a little bit, so that isn't as frequent as a thing, but I still listen to podcasts every day. One of the shows I've been listening to forever is DLC with Jeff Kanata and Christian Spicer. And at one point they were talking about something called Google's Project Stream, and I'm like, what's that? And I look into it and it wasn't available in Canada. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. What is this? And then they talk about, we're playing Assassin's Creed Origins and it's running to our crappy laptop and this is working at 1080p and there's no lag. And I was like, that's no way. There's no way that is true. And then I saw a bunch of people talking about it, and fast forward to Google announcing it as an actual product called Stadia. I was like, that is exactly what I wanted. I'm a console gamer. You can see behind me, I have cartridges and discs and all that stuff. I like plugging a thing into a thing to play a thing. And then I thought about cloud gaming is like, wait a second, I don't have to buy the console. Google bought the console. Google's fronting me a console. I just have to buy the games. And I thought that was such an amazing idea for a console. They had proven that through Project Stream that it works. 1080p was fine. And then they come out and they're like 4K, 60 frames a second. I'm like, no way, that's not going to happen. And then as it got closer to everything, like we started the show, we talked about it forever. And it turned out to be everything that I didn't think it could be and so much more, which was kind of amazing for kind of not the first platform in the market, but kind of like the first standalone platform that wasn't run your Steam games on this thing or run this console version of a game over the internet at 720p. So yeah, I'm a big tech guy, and new tech like that just got me super, super interested.
Jumping into that kind of new tech feel, Samsung's gaming hub is kind of the big new talk of the market. GeForce Now, Google Stadia, and Amazon Luna are now all officially on Samsung Gaming Hub as of this week. So I'm curious, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think it's fantastic that Samsung, I mean, I'm not going to run out and buy a Samsung TV for that feature, but I feel like I said this a lot of times on Stadia Cast, over time, that kind of thing, it's not going to be something that sells the TV, but it's going to be something where if you have the TV and you turn that on, that's going to be like, oh, that's really cool. I didn't know about that. All I have to have is a controller. Fantastic. Everybody's got a controller in a drawer somewhere, and if you can get it to connect to the TV, that's going to really help GeForce Now, Luna, Stadia, and probably any of the other cloud gaming platforms as well. I think it's awesome that they're doing that.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of something that we've talked about for a long time, that Stadia in its inception was that it was this little tiny thing you plug into a TV and you forget it's even there, and it just works, and it just works. And then they came out with their TV apps, and other companies came out with their TV apps, and those are great. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them, but taking all that stuff and aggregating it into one central repository of sorts is definitely where the industry needs to go, because with all the announcements over the last couple of weeks of new streaming services that are coming to North America and other parts of the world, what I hate personally is having some of my games in Steam and some in Epic Games Store and some on Xbox and some on this and some in Stadia and some on GeForce Now. Well, actually, those are in Steam, so that one's pretty easy. I hate that. I hate having all my stuff in various compartments that I can't see everything at once. Having an app where it'll show you the games that you're playing, it'll show you the games that are available, and it'll be like, oh yeah, I was playing this game on GeForce Now, I'm just going to jump right back into it. I think that's huge, and I'd be super surprised if the rest of the kind of the higher end television market doesn't just ape that and steal that idea, because it totally makes sense. Just like TVs nowadays, especially if you're using an Android TV, will aggregate all the TV stuff that you're watching across all the different services. It just totally makes sense to have that done with gaming as well.
Yeah, I think the one interesting thing, and you guys kind of alluded to it earlier, is that with Stadia, the original idea was, okay, you don't need a console, you don't need a high-end PC, it's kind of democratizes it. And Bill, you hit it right on the head. I looked it up, Samsung 55-inch TV is like $2,000. So it's like, in order to embrace this, you got to go get a $2,000 TV. So really where I hope to see this is kind of what you were saying, Lloyd, is, let's see this on LG, let's see this on Samsung, let's see everybody begin to kind of play ball and kind of have it, because there's nothing worse than being like, oh, do I own this game on Stadia, or do I own this game on Epic, or do I have to re-up my Game Pass subscription in order to play this? It's just, having one place that can not only curate the games but allow you to play them all would be fantastic.
And, to kind of piggyback on that is the thing that a lot of people misunderstand about cloud gaming in general, because you're not buying a box to put underneath your TV, it doesn't have to succeed immediately. It can play the long game, because with say the Nintendo Wii U, that thing failed hardcore. I have one. It's an awesome system, but it did not sell well. And because it didn't sell well right out of the gate, everybody abandoned it. And, they stopped manufacturing it, and eventually they stopped selling them in stores. With a cloud system, they can do this, the tortoise and the hare kind of thing, where they slowly build over time and they keep getting better and better and better incrementally, instead of having to have everything go gangbusters on day one. And I think that's the same kind of thing that we're going to see with the Samsung, what's it called again?
Gaming Hub.
With the Samsung Gaming Hub, is we're not going to see anything right now, but in 3 years, when you go in to buy a new TV and it's just something that's built into the latest, at that point, those TVs will be like $400 or something. Then everybody's gonna have this, and it's gonna be one of those things where, I don't know about you guys, but I go onto a TV app or a TV, and I'm looking through, and it's like, I don't even know what this app is. Okay, there's Crunchyroll, or that one that comedians in cars getting coffee started out on. I can't remember. Crackle. I didn't even know what those things were, and then I see it, and then I start using it. Yeah. The gaming hub could be the same way, in order to get things like GeForce Now, Xbox Cloud Gaming, Luna, and Stadia out there. And I think that's awesome.
It's a very, very exciting concept. And I'm curious, one of the questions I had for you guys was, where do you see the cloud gaming vertical going, let's just say 5 years from now? Where do you think it'll be? Do you think it's going to be, the primary gaming option out there, or do you think there's still going to be people playing consoles, or how do you think the landscape's going to be?
A couple years ago, I said 5 years, you're going to have a large percentage, not a majority, but 20-30% of people that play games would be playing in cloud in some instance. And then things started slowing down, and I was like, okay, maybe that was a little aggressive. I was being a little too happy with the whole cloud gaming thing. But then Xbox Game Pass and launching xCloud really kind of changed cloud gaming for the industry as a whole. Like, when people are waiting for a game to install, and they can click this little cloud button and they can start playing Forza right away, and they don't have to think about it, they're just playing it, they don't realize that they're playing cloud gaming. I think that's going to be huge as a driver for more people coming to cloud gaming as kind of their first choice. Stadia's done an amazing job recently with their playable demos. The fact that you can go to a web page, there's 75 demos there. You can play them between a half hour and 2 hours. So you're giving every single person on the internet that's in a supported region, 150 hours worth of content to go experience for nothing, $0. And all you need to do for Google is to take, 5%, 10% of those people and convert them into paying customers. And this experiment starts paying off for them. So I don't know, maybe my thoughts a couple years ago about 5 years being 30% was a little bit aggressive, but maybe not now. Maybe 5 years from now, you're going to see 30 90+% of people that play video games that use more than just say their phone, that use consoles or whatever, PCs even, playing in cloud streaming just because it is easy. And all you need is for the next Cyberpunk to happen, where the only good place to play it is Stadia or Luna or Boostroid or whatever happens to be the winner of whatever the next broken game lottery is. And you're going to get a large chunk of people that are just going to move over to that service, play their game, enjoy it. Don't even think about cloud. Don't think about bits. Don't think about bandwidth. Just play the game. And that's going to start converting people to being cloud first gamers.
And I do agree with that, Lloyd. I do think, however, that, boy, I want to say that I was really bullish on cloud gaming, and I still feel like I am. But at the same time, there's so many places where you just can't get decent internet. And because of that, you still have to have those boxes to put underneath people's TVs, which is unfortunate. But I do think that you're right, that it is going to continually improve over time. And I'm sure that we said that a billion times on Stadia Cast, that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And when you're talking about cloud gaming, it is going to be a marathon, not a sprint, because you have to roll things out slowly. The infrastructure in most parts of the world just still is not ready for it. But, as Google, the champions of encoding things, having it still look really good quality and not taking up all that much bandwidth, as they get better and better and better at that, and the more competition that there is in the cloud gaming space, the more it's going to push all of these companies forward to get better at encoding and making things low latency. I think that you're going to see it push into more places. It's just a shame that cloud gaming started right at the beginning of the pandemic and right at the beginning of like chip shortages. So it slowed every kind of adoption down. And a lot of people looked at that and they said, wow, there's a chip shortage and everybody's stuck at home, so everybody's going to be playing their games in the cloud, which makes perfect sense until you think about the fact that Google and Microsoft and Amazon and everybody else has to get chips themselves in order to put the servers online. So, boy, it's way more complicated than a lot of people assume that it is, I think.
Nerd Nest, you guys have been producing some content about a product that I have not had a chance to get my hands on, and that's the Steam Deck. Your show, On Deck, seems to be extremely popular amongst your audience, and I'm curious, as someone who's never touched it, never seen it, what does the Steam Deck feel like in your hands? Is it as awesome as it looks?
It's pretty awesome. I got to tell you. The one thing about Steam Deck that I didn't realize I would love so much, and it actually might be good for the cloud gaming industry as a whole, is I'm playing games at 720p. I never want to play games at 720p. And if people can start getting in their brain that you can have a good experience at 720p, all of a sudden all the streaming services out there don't have to put out 1080p and 4K signals. So the people like you were talking about, Bill, where there's a large swath of this continent that doesn't have good internet, they probably have good enough internet to do 720p streaming. So it's almost interesting to me. It's opened my eyes a little bit that you can have amazing experiences at 720p or 800p, and maybe you'll get a lot of settings. I know Stadia and other ones you can set it down to 720p, but that might all open people's eyes if they see other people playing games at that resolution. Anyway, the Steam Deck itself it's the consoleization of the PC, and that's one of the things that we said in I think our first show, Bill. And we immediately got about 97% hate because we said that. But it really is. It really is. You buy a game on Steam, it installs. That's it. It's like you go to the Epic store, you go to the Xbox store or the Nintendo store or the Stadia store. It's the exact same process, but it's on the Steam Deck. You go to a store, you buy a game, you look at the games that you have. It's changed my mind a lot because I used to be a big PC gamer. And then I stopped because consoles were the thing. I just wanted simplicity. My day job is IT. I didn't want to come home and solve problems. I just want to come home and play. And the Steam Deck is as close to that in PC gaming that I've had in I don't know, years of playing PC games.
As far as what it's like to hold one, it is the most comfortable gaming device that I've ever had in my hands. The layout is perfect. It's not a perfect device. There's definitely things that I would change about it, but it's awesome. And the thing that you said a second ago, Lloyd, about resolution. So I didn't mention this show before. I've got another podcast that I don't actually update, but there's like 50 episodes, and it's like it's evergreen content. So like it's not newsy, but it's called 143 Pixels. At the end of every episode of 143 Pixels, the guest would say resolution doesn't matter, because I've always thought resolution doesn't matter, but too many people get this thing in their head, and Google kind of fell prey to this at the beginning, that they want it. The numbers have to be bigger. I have to have bigger numbers than this person over here, or it's not going to be good enough. And like that 720p thing, these games running on this thing and listen, if anybody of our that watches our content hears us say 720p, they're going to be mad at us. It's 800p, Lloyd. Don't forget.
Some games are 720p, some are 800p.
But when you're playing at that low resolution, they still look really pretty. They really still do look good. And people, they get the numbers in their head too much, and they forget about, is the game fun? Like I saw this on Stadia a million times. People were like, is it running at 4K? And like with Doom, what was it? Eternal. With Doom Eternal, they were like, no, it's 1800p. As opposed to 2160p, who cares? Like that is not a big deal, but people made it a big deal because of the numbers. And I think that's a big thing that too many people focus on.
Yeah, with all of your experience, if you had to kind of rank, a cloud gaming experience with a mobile device and like, let's say like a Razer Kishi, the Nintendo Switch, and then the Steam Deck, what would that top three look like?
For me, it would be Nintendo Switch, number one, 100%, because Nintendo is in the business of making smooth interactions between the hardware and the software. And nothing works as good as a new piece of Nintendo hardware with the first game that they ship with it. It's a magic experience. Then it would be, for me, the Steam Deck, because it plays games. It plays Steam games. It plays Windows games. It plays Epic games. It plays GOG games, but it also plays all the streaming services as well. So I stream Stadia and Xbox and everything on it. No problem there. And then it would be my phone. I have a Backbone, which I love, by the way. But I don't use it as often as I thought I would, just because the Steam Deck came out and the Switch was already in my house. I bought this thing a year ago, and I've probably used it 20, 30 times. So for me, that would be my ranking. There's no beating Nintendo. Nintendo does hardware and software interaction magic. Steam Deck is just, as Bill said, one of the most comfortable devices I've used, and it does everything. Like I can play an NES game on it through an emulator. Then I can play Monster Hunter Rise, that the new game that just came out, the new Sun whatever that DLC that just came out. I could download that and install it, and then I can get tired of that and jump into Stadia and play through my large Stadia library on the same device. It's pretty fantastic.
For me, the bottom of the barrel is absolutely a third-party thing clipped to my phone. I never play games on my phone, like ever, and I do have. I don't remember what it's called. I have a thing that clips to a phone. It's like an orange and blue thing. And I don't know why, but everybody wants to copy the Nintendo Switch, where they have one joystick on the top right or top left and other one on the bottom right, but you don't have enough room on the controller to have that right thumbstick where it is. And so playing games that use both thumbsticks is incredibly uncomfortable. And I just can't stand that. And that's another thing that I don't like. When I played my Switch, even when I was doing my Switch podcast, my Nintendo Switchcraft, I did that show for 5 years. I think the Nintendo Switch is fantastic. Almost always I played it docked, because it's uncomfortable to play, because they wanted it to be as portable as possible. Nintendo had, they put it on a scale someplace, and they said on this side it's going to be super portable, and on this side it's going to be super comfortable, and they skewed more to the more to the portable side, and they gave up on some of that comfort. Where the Steam Deck, they went on the other side. They made it way bulkier. Like, this thing is not going to be in your pocket like the Nintendo Switch could, but at the same time, when I hold it in my hands, it's so much more comfortable, and it just kind of melts away, and you just focus on what's happening on the screen. Plus, you have all those other input options on the Steam Deck. So for me, it's going to be Steam Deck, Nintendo if it's a Nintendo game, and then like 30 miles below ground is going to be a thing clipped to my phone.
Have you all been following the rumors about Xbox possibly coming out with a mobile device? What are your thoughts on that? I mean, do you think there's still a market for that? We've got the Steam Deck, we've got the Nintendo Switch, and now we have all these cloud gaming offerings that simply just run on your phone. Do you think there's an area for like an Xbox portable?
I think so. I'm going to take the same question that you said, and let's go back in time. We've got Sega and Nintendo and Sony. They've completely got the gaming market sewn up. Is there room for Microsoft? Really?
True, that's a really good point.
It's the same exact thing all over again. There's always room for somebody to come in. Remember MySpace? There's always room for somebody to come in and disrupt the environment. And I think that Microsoft could do that. I don't know that they will, though. And if they did, I think that they would want it to be like a streaming device where you would use it with your Game Pass subscription, and it would just like tether to your phone or something, or use Wi-Fi in order to stream those games to you at a low resolution, like Lloyd's been doing with his Steam Deck. What do you think, Lloyd?
I think it can happen. I don't think it will happen. I know the rumors are out there, and I also know that companies do a lot of R&D, and they produce a lot of products that are amazing that never make it to market. I know Microsoft is working on that streaming stick. They really want to get that thing out there, and I think that is a super smart thing for people that don't want to go buy the $2,000 Samsung TV, but they still want to stream Xbox games. That is going to be huge. I have no doubt in my mind that they are working on a portable. I don't think they're going to bring it to market. I would love to be wrong, because I'd love to see what a Microsoft handheld looks like. That's kind of always been the joke in the industry, when the DS was out and then the Vita or the PSP was out, and it's like, okay, what's Microsoft gonna do? Are they gonna come out with the XPad or something? And it's been a joke for many years. I'd love to see what they would actually do as a piece of hardware you can pick up in a store and bring home.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because when you look at the market and you see kind of what everybody's doing, Nintendo has always kind of been like this walled off garden. You know, they're very similar to Apple in that sense. That Nintendo works with Nintendo, nothing kind of leaves. But that's the company that I'm most interested about in the next 5 to 6 years, because you already see Sony, you already see Xbox, you see PlayStation, they're all kind of making their moves in the cloud gaming space. Nintendo's the one that is kind of flirting with cloud gaming right now, with games kind of running on the Switch. I'm curious, do you both, with all of your history of kind of following Nintendo, do you see a day that we could possibly have a Nintendo app on a television or a Nintendo app on your phone, similar to the way we do with Game Pass, Stadia, or GeForce Now right now?
Personally, I don't think there'll ever be a Nintendo app on a television, unless it's some sort of Nintendo classic app. So instead of selling you mini consoles, they sell you an app that you pay an annual fee for to access NES games or something. I could see Nintendo doing that, but that would be way down the line. Nintendo's always been the company that innovates. Like, every major control innovation that has come to the industry, Nintendo kind of did first. They did the D-pad first. They did the layout of a controller first. They did the kind of everything with shoulder buttons and rumble and analog sticks and motion controls. So I think Nintendo is always going to innovate on the hardware side of things, because they want to wow people with the Nintendo Magic, where you play the game on the launch day console and it's not something you could play anywhere else. That is Nintendo's bread and butter.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Lloyd here. I also think, like, the reason that you go to the cloud is because you don't have hardware that can run things locally, essentially. That's not the only reason, but that's one of the main reasons. And Nintendo has always said that the way that they like to do things is they like to use older technology in new ways. And it makes a lot of sense for them to do it that way, because using older technology in new ways is cheap. And so that means that they make money on hardware sales, and they are the only ones that make money on hardware. And I don't know if you're aware, but they make a lot of money.
They're not starving right now.
No, and I don't see them. Boy, if there's one thing that Nintendo does poorly, it is online. They do it so terribly compared to everybody else. And so I don't see them going to the cloud route for a very, very long time. Again, old technology in new ways. When everybody else is in the cloud and Nintendo's still like, old man yelling at the clouds, I think that eventually, maybe someday, but it's going to be an exceedingly long time before we see that. And everybody else is going to be like, what took you so long to get here?
Well, I got 2 last questions for you guys, and they're kind of quick and brief, so we can let you kind of go on your way. What is your favorite game so far this year?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shredder's Revenge.
Is that good?
It's my game of the year so far.
Okay.
It's a nostalgia punch. So if you don't want to get punched with nostalgia, and if you love Turtles the way that I did, I was a huge Turtle fan from when I was a kid. Love the original cartoon. Love everything to do with Turtles. It feels like the games never went away, and they just kept iterating. And this is like the Turtles in Time 5 or something. Like it feels like a game that has developed over years and iterations. It is so good. I wish it was longer. I wish there was every character that has ever been in a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoon is playable. Like I wish there was more to it, because it's an arcade beat 'em up, so you can beat it in an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever. But it is such a great game, and that for me right now, that is my favorite game that has come out this year.
Yeah, I've been watching that game from the sidelines, and I played it I kind of like you in the old arcade of playing the beat 'em up and that. But the one that it's given me hope for is that maybe we'll get to see them have The Simpsons get a similar treatment and just kind of redo it like they did with TMNT. I think that would be a great choice. Bill, what have you been playing? What's your favorite game so far?
I mean, right now, I have a memory like a goldfish, and the game that I've played the most recently is, again, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That game is incredibly addictive, and at any time that I have 5 minutes... You gotta leave that in.
That is so weird.
Yeah, wow, look at that.
Gotta turn that off. Sorry.
Anytime I get like an extra 5-10 minutes, I usually sit down and play Ninja Turtles. But that game just came out, and so it's super fresh in my mind. If you ask me in a couple of weeks, I'll probably say Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, because Monster Hunter Rise was one of my favorite games from last year, and I've been I've been talking about Monster Hunter like nonstop all year, because that game is just my absolute jam. So I guess I'm going to cheat, and I'm not going to say either of those, and I'll say a game that is technically a new release this year, but it actually was in early access for a while, and that would be Rogue Legacy. I've got a Rogue Legacy 2. I've got, I don't know, like 40 hours in Rogue Legacy 2, and that I just got it, a month ago? It's so good. It's so fantastic. And it's one of those games, you just go in and you keep playing, and it's super addictive. It's got a wonderful, concise, and satisfying gameplay loop, and I just I adore that game.
So that's kind of a good segue into the next question, and I guess excluding Monster Hunter, what game on the horizon are you paying attention to that has you excited?
The only game that I can think about now that I'm not playing and can't play for the next 9 months or whatever is Starfield. I love Elder Scrolls, I love Fallout, I love big open world RPGs. And everything that they're showing about Starfield has me very, very excited. 1,000 planets, a bunch of star systems, trading, just it looks too good to be true. No Man's Sky also looked too good to be true, and it was at launch, but it's turned into quite the game. So I hope Starfield doesn't have the same stumble out of the starting blocks as No Man's Sky has.
I was so deep into No Man's Sky when it came out. I think I have like 1,000 hours in that game, and I made it to the center, and the game just resets. And I was like, what the heck is this? Like, I didn't want to buy into any of it. And when I saw Starfield, I was like, please, for the love of God, just knock this out of the park, because you're coming off Fallout 76, which was a little rough, and then you're coming into the No Man's Sky territory, and I'm with you. It looks great. I'm definitely going to check it out, but it's just one of those that I'm like, come on, you can do it.
Well, if he's allowed to pick something for next year, then I'm going to say in about 9 months, Breath of the Wild 2, that's going to be, I cannot wait. Yes, more Link.
Hopefully I don't offend you by saying this, but I've never played Breath of the Wild.
Why would I would not be offended. Listen, everybody's allowed to like the things that they like, and there's way too many games in the world for everybody to play everything. So if you haven't played it yet, I highly recommend that you do. It's amazing. And if you have played it and you don't like it, then that opinion is 100% valid. That's the coolest thing about video games, is your opinion is just as valid as my opinion, even if we don't agree.
Well, gentlemen, if people want to find more about you, about Nerd Nest, where should they go?
So Lloyd has a podcast called Nintendo Pulse. You can find that at res.tv/NP.
Good job. I'm impressed. Bill has a podcast called Games with Bill. You can check that out at anchor.fm/Nintendo Switchcraft. Is that, or did you did change it? Okay. Sorry. It just updated in my podcast feed, so I never updated that.
Yeah, I didn't, like, I changed the podcast over to a new show, and so nobody had to subscribe to it. It was already, like, everybody was already subscribed. Yeah, anchor.fm/Games with Bill. And if you want to hear Lloyd and I talk about stuff together, then head on over to nerdnest.tv and check out both of our YouTube channel and our podcast all about the Steam Deck and PC gaming, which is called On Deck, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Well, gentlemen, thank you again so much for coming on the show. It was a pleasure getting to meet both of you and getting to talk about cloud gaming and everything. For everybody watching at home, thank you so much for watching this week's episode. Until next time, my name is Bryant, and this has been the Nerf Report. Thanks for watching. Hey, thanks again for checking out our channel. If you like what you saw and you want to see more content just like it, which who wouldn't, hit the subscribe button right there. And while you're down there, hit the like button. Maybe even consider becoming a Nerf Report best friend, just like the people listed down below did. In fact, don't you want to see your name there? I know I do.